Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to present this statement. My statement is on the drastic reduction in Miraa prices. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the drastic reduction of Miraa prices and other issues affecting the Miraa sector. In the statement, the committee should, 1, investigate and report to the Senate the reasons for the drastic reduction in Miraa prices from Kenya shillings 2,000 to Kenya shillings 300 per kilo, and the allegation of illegal charges of up to $4.5 that the market is fully open for Miraa exports from Kenya and that there is free entry into the export business of Miraa into Somalia. Number 3, Honorable Speaker, explain why Kenya Airways and other airlines are not around to carry Miraa to Somalia and other markets, whereas Miraa is a legal scheduled to revitalize the industry. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, state the measures put in place by the ministry to negotiate the reopening of closed Miraa markets to mitigate loss of revenues for Miraa farmers and revenue for the government. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order
What is
number
the
8.
issue, Senator Fernande?
Mr. Speaker, I know we are pressed for time, but understanding order number 1, maybe you could have allowed us a few minutes just to seek clarification on 1 or 2 statements. Maybe you can pick either a few members, both sides.
Yeah, Senator Fernande, I would easily accede to that request. But you must note we have lost 1 hour. From 5:30, we'll adjourn to discuss that motion. And therefore, we need to squeeze whatever is in the order paper up to 5:30. So I'm sorry, I may not be able to allocate some minutes for purposes of intervention. Next order, clerk.
Order number 8, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 5 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Statutory Instruments Act.
Next order.
Order number 9, the Election Offences Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Election Offences Act.
Next order.
Order number 10, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Statutory Instruments Act to provide for the timelines within which statutory instruments shall be made and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, the Elections Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 11 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Elections Act and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 12, the Political Parties Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 13 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Political Parties Act 2011 and for connected purposes.
Now, honorable senators, at this juncture, allow me to invoke Standing Order 45-2 to rearrange the sequence of today's order paper. We will, from order number 12, proceed to order 19. So, Clerk, please proceed to call that order.
Order number 19, the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bills number 70 of 2023, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2023, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Gambling Control Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2023, was published in the Kenya Gazette, supplement number 212 of 2023. The bill was considered by our colleagues in the National Assembly, and on the 6th of December 2023, they passed it. And thereafter, the bill was referred here to the Senate for consideration. Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill seeks to provide for the regulation of betting, casinos, and other forms of gambling, authorization of prize competitions and public lotteries, for the establishment of a gambling regulatory authority of Kenya, for the imposition of tax on betting and other forms of gambling. Mr. Speaker, you're very much aware that gambling is here with us, and we must learn to live with it. Because unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this is an industry which, to the best of my knowledge, we are still struggling as a country. The good thing, though, is that it's not a challenge that is unique to us as Kenya alone. World over, control of casinos and gambling activities poses a challenge to almost all administrators and administrations, rather, Mr. Speaker. You know, for example, Mr. Speaker, that many sporting teams have betting companies as their shirt sponsors. But in the English Premier League, for example, they have given themselves, and all teams have been given 3 seasons in total to exit having betting companies as their shirt sponsors. Therefore, it points out to the fact, Mr. Speaker, that this is a concern that is global, that you have to learn how to live with this industry and adjust yourselves towards this wind. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we haven't done so well as a country. You know that about 3, 4, 5 years ago, Kenya began the imposition of taxes on betting. At that time, the thinking was we could use taxes in 2018 as a deterrence to keep young people from either betting or being addicted to it altogether. What a terrible mistake, Mr. Speaker. Because soon after, while we made it possible and made it difficult, because nowadays in Kenya, when you bet, I don't understand betting that much, Mr. Speaker, because I don't gamble, for example. I'm just a good sportsman who knows that winning and losing depends on how you are prepared for the day. And sometimes it falls into your favor, sometimes it's away. And on a day like today, Mr. Speaker, I wish the good old Arsenal can beat Bayern Munich. But if you speak to other people, they'll tell you that they have already placed a bet and they know what needs to happen. So, Mr. Speaker, if you're betting in Kenya, you as a bettor, the minute you place the bet, like Senator Sifuna is now telling me he has already placed a bet, he has already been deducted part of that money. And if you were to win, there'll also be a deduction, because it tells you that our thinking as a country is that we can use tax as a deterrence so that many young people don't engage themselves. Unfortunately, what have our young people done and the people that are engaged in betting? They have actually moved on from betting using platforms that are available here and able to be controlled here in Kenya, they are now betting online with companies whose jurisdiction remains unknown even globally. I know many young people, and while I say this, I say it as a very difficult time because I have a young man actually who's a good friend and a supporter who's lying in the morgue as we speak. He used to work at an M-Pesa shop, went to some betting site, I'm told it's called Aviator. You know, when I was told the story, Mr. Speaker, then I realized that I have grown old. I think because I sit amongst people who are older than me, I've always imagined that I'm still young. But the reality is dawning on me that there are many things that I don't know, things that could not be said of a few years back. So I hear there's a betting, either platform or whatever, and when they placed their bet there, they lost over 120,000. Money which would otherwise be referred to as a float of the shop they were running. And since they feared the owner of the shop, they decided to take their own life. The story is replicated across the country. Many, either offline or online betting sites that are available and are being now used by young people because with the absence of, you know, when you bet on, say, an M-Pesa or a locally regulated platform, the tax revenue people are able to keep track of what you're doing and therefore are able to recover this tax. But many of these young people, I have pointed out, Mr. Speaker, are now betting online and paying using either their cards or whatever other forms of payment, Madam Speaker, using channels that are unknown to the government, Mr. Speaker, and therefore even our regulation of the same is limited. And this is, again, like I have pointed out, not a challenge unique to Kenya. These gaming sites are so advanced in their gaming machines such that even if you are to block their IP address, they have the ability to generate a new one within seconds. Countries that are far more advanced than us technologically, Mr. Speaker, have not been able to successfully regulate it. Therefore, this is an attempt to shift our thinking and know that because it is almost impossible to deter, because betting is a matter of personal choice. People decide to either bet or not to bet. And therefore, you must make ways of living and surviving with this phenomena that is here with us, Mr. Speaker, so that you're in a position and are able to either control, manage it, Mr. Speaker, or guide it in a way that provides a good platform for you as an administration or as a government, Mr. Speaker, to regulate this activity. Therefore, this bill is providing us with this framework, Mr. Speaker, because of the challenge that I have just explained. Issues of tax evasion, issues of underage gambling. You know, any person today with an access to the computer, Mr. Speaker, can actually participate in gambling activities. Because, like I have pointed out, some of these sites are actually online, and there is no regulation on age, who can access these sites and who cannot, Mr. Speaker. There is also, Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that there are very enhanced monitoring mechanisms for these gaming initiatives, it is crucial at this time to create a safe, fair, and socially responsible gaming environment. Basically an admission, like the rest of the world has had to do, that gambling is here to stay with us. And there are people who will gamble either way. Therefore, the best thing to do is for you to set up a fair and a good environment and regulate it properly, Mr. Speaker, so that it is done in a manner that you can keep sight, keep track, be able to assist people if there are issues of addiction, for example, place the responsibility. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I was hoping, because further down the bill, and I have taken time to quickly scan